We are live.
Okay, we're alive. And okay, so today we're going to begin the second discourse of the Bhagavad Gita, and it's the Philosophy of Discrimination. It's called Samkhya Yoga, according to one translation. And today we're going to read verses 1 through 10 of the second discourse, the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. But before we do that, Khushboo is going to explain something to us about the Bhagavad Gita structure. Go ahead.
The Gita demonstrates many modern techniques of communication. First, Arjuna's problem is presented, and then Krishna's solution, chapter 2 to 18, is offered. Krishna begins telling Arjuna what he will reveal, chapter 2. He then elaborates on what he promises to tell, chapter 13 to 17. And finally, he repeats what he has told, chapter 18. Krishna's solution involves analysis and synthesis, slicing the whole into a part and then binding them parts into a whole. The solution itself is comprehensive, involving, and behavioral, the emotional and intellectual. However, no one reads Gita as a book in the old time. They hear every versa in a single sitting, or hear every versa in a single sitting. Traditionally, Gita used to be heard particular versa by versa, where but in the modern time is where we listen to it fully at one go. So yeah, that's it for now.
Oh, wow. So by tradition, it was just read out. Is that right? The whole thing?
No, by tradition, it's like what Gandhiji used to do, right? Whenever he was in a dilemma, he used to pick up this book and just find a one verse and find a meaning out of it. And that is how everybody in India, like technically people have the pocket-sized Bhagavad Gita with them. So whenever like you are in a dilemma, you open it. And so it's never like you sit down in the Gita part kind of a thing and you finish one book in one go.
Oh, you don't
like
do
that.
Okay,
yeah.
yeah.
You don't do it.
And I was just reading about the Quran too, where in the Quran simply permeates Islam, where you're hearing some reading from the Quran all the time, 5 times a day at least, through the loudspeakers, right? And and so people just know the Quran and they just plug into it. It's kind of the way I work with Jungian psychology, right? Because I've read it so thoroughly that I know what page it's on and what paragraph it's in. And
I know, I have noticed it.
Right. Same thing. Okay.
And then let's
okay, so we're going to read the second discourse, the Philosophy of Discrimination, verses 1 through 10. Verse 1. Oh. Okay. They know. Okay. I think you've muted yourselves. Yoda knows.
They do know.
Yeah. Okay. Verse 1.
Yeah, I'm just scrolling.
So meanwhile, while you're preparing, I'll just mention that basically what Discourse 2 is going to be, as was just explained to us by Khushboo, is that this is a summary of what's coming. So it's in the great tradition of teaching someone where you tell them what you're going to teach them. That's discourse 2, as I understand it. Then you tell them, that's just the other discourses. And then in verse 18, you tell them what you told them. So that's the tradition of teaching. Tell them what you're going to teach, and then tell them what you taught.
In the chapter 18, not verse 18.
Yeah, chapter 18, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's discourse 18. Okay, so verse 1.
Verse 1. Ta tatha krupya vishtamishrو purnakulakshapanah vishidantamida vakyamuvacha madhusudanah. Verse 1.
Sanjaya said, Krishna, killer of Madhu, spoke these words to the despairing one whose eyes were filled with tears and who was overcome with pity. Verse 1. Sanjaya then told how the Lord Shri Krishna, seeing Arjuna overwhelmed with compassion, his eyes dimmed with flowing tears and full of despondency, consoled him. Verse 2.
Krutastava kashmalamindah vishame samupasthitama anayarjushta masvargama maki tirkaramajurna. Verse 2.
The Blessed One said, how does this faint heart come to you in time of difficulty? This is not suitable for a noble one. It is not heavenly and brings on disgrace. Verse 2. My beloved friend, why yield just on the eve of battle to this weakness which does no credit to those who call themselves Aryans, and only brings them infamy and bars against them the gates of heaven? Verse 3.
Klabendya ma sma gamah partha netatva yu papadhate shudra hadaya daubalya tvakatvo tishta parantapa. Verse 3.
Do not become a cowardly eunuch, son of Prita. This is not fitting for you. Let go of this lowly weakness of the heart and stand up, scorcher of the enemy. Verse 3. O Arjuna, why give way to unmanliness? O you who are the terror of your enemies, shake off such shameful effeminacy. Make ready to act. Verse 4.
Katha bhishmamah sadankhaye drona cha madhusudana ishubhi prati yotsayami purjaha vasi sudana. Verse 4.
Arjuna said, killer of Madhu, how will I fight Drona and Bhishma with arrows in battle? How will I fight these honorable men, killer of the enemy? Verse 4. My lord, how can I, when the battle rages, send an arrow through Bhishma and Drona, who should receive my reverence? Verse 5.
Guru nahava hi mahanubhavana shreyo bhontu bheshya mahigha loke hatvartha kamastu guru nihave bhujya bhogana rudhira pradignagdhana. Verse 5.
Better to eat beggars' food than to kill these great-souled teachers here on earth. For if I killed these teachers striving after their goals here on earth, I would eat food covered in blood. Verse 5. Rather would I content myself with a beggar's crust than kill these teachers of mine, these precious noble souls. To slay these masters who are my benefactors would be to stain the sweetness of life's pleasure with their blood. Verse 6.
न चेतदिग्नम कतरनतो गरियो यदा जयेम यदि वानो जयेयु यानेव हत्वा न जिजीविषामत्यसेदवस्थिता प्रमुखे धार्तराष्ट्र. Verse 6.
Facing the sons of Dhritarashtra, we do not know which has more weight for us. Should we conquer them or should they conquer us? Even after we've killed them, we would not want to live. Verse 6. Nor can I say whether it were better that they conquer me or for me to conquer them, since I would no longer care to live if I killed these sons of Dhritarashtra, now preparing to fight. Verse 7.
कार्पण्य दोषो पह तस्वभाव पुष्टछामि त्वा धर्म सम्मोध चेता यच्चर्चेद श्यानिंसिचतः ब्रूह तन्मे शिष्य संदेह साधीमा त्वा प्रपन्नम. Verse 7.
My own nature is struck by pity and a sense of wrong, and my mind is clouded as to the Dharma. I ask you which is best. Tell me. I am your student. Correct me. Who lies fallen before your feet? Verse 7. My heart is oppressed with pity, and my mind confused as to what my duty is. Therefore, my Lord, tell me what is best for my spiritual welfare, for I am your disciple. Please direct me, I pray. Verse 8.
Nahi prayashyami mamapanudhada yachokamu chokshana mindriyanam avayapya bhumavasa pattannamuddha rajyah suranamapi chadhipatyam. Verse 8.
I don't ever see what would take away my grief, that grief which dries up the senses, even though I might gain opulent and unrivaled kingship here on earth, or even lordship of the gods. Verse 8. For should I attain the monarchy of the visible world or over the invisible world, it would not drive away the anguish which is now paralyzing my senses. Verse 9.
Eva mukvata harshikesha gudakesha parantapa na yotsai iti govinda mukta truni trushni babhuva aha. Verse 9.
Sanjaya said, Scorcher of the enemy, after speaking to bristling-haired Krishna, thick-haired Arjuna said, I will not fight. He spoke this way to Krishna, the cow finder, and then became quiet. Verse 9. Arjuna, the conqueror of all enemies, then told the Lord of all hearts that he would not fight and became silent, O king. Verse 10.
Tamudvacha harshikeshah prahasanvid bharata senayoru bhayomarthye vishidantaminda vachah.
Son of Bharata, bristling-haired Krishna seemed to begin to laugh, and in between both armies spoke these words to the despairing one. Verse 10. Thereupon the Lord, with a gracious smile, addressed him who was so much depressed in the midst between the two armies. So that is the end of the reading for today. And so we see here the I'm going to read the footnotes, right? So let me go back to the footnotes. Okay, so the text reads, which does no credit to those who call themselves Aryans. And the footnote reads, Aryan derives from the Sanskrit Arya, noble or honorable, a word applied in ancient times to great spiritual personalities. Western scholars adopted the term to designate Western scholars adopted the term to designate a category of Indo-Iranian languages, as well as an ethnic or racial group, also known as Indo-Europeans. These Aryans were a fair-skinned nomadic people believed to have migrated in prehistoric times from the plains north of the Caucasus, some tribes settling in northern Europe, others in Iran and northern India. The Aryan invasion of India, which has been questioned by authors such as George Feuerstein and David Frawley, who argue that the Sanskrit-speaking Vedic Aryans were not foreign invaders, but indigenous inhabitants of India. The Nazis promoted the fiction concocted in Europe in the 19th century of a morally superior Aryan race, of which Nordic or Germanic peoples were supposedly the purest examples. Next note. The text reads, shake off such shameful effeminacy. The note reads, effeminacy. The Sanskrit original means weakness of heart. In this world which baffles our reason, violence there will always be. The Gita shows the way which will lead us out of it, but it also says that we cannot escape it by running away from it like cowards. And that is a quote from Gandhiji. Note 3, the text reads, my lord, how can I, when the battle rages, send an arrow through Bhishma? The note reads, as it happened, so many arrows were shot into Bhishma during the battle that he was able to lie parallel to the ground, supported by the arrow shafts. This event furnished the model for the well-known bed of nails used by some Indian ascetics. Bhishma lay on his bed of arrows and waited to die until the sun turned north, thus choosing an auspicious moment for his death in the manner described in Discourse 8:24. And then the next note, Arjuna, the conqueror of all enemies, then told the Lord of Hearts. And the footnote reads, the Lord of Hearts. This epithet evokes the adorable aspect of Krishna, who in his youth is as a cowherd in the village of Vrindavan, won the hearts of the cowherding girls, gopis, and boys, gopas. Krishna is often called Govinda, meaning chief of the cowherds, which reflects his mastery of the senses, symbolized by the cows. And finally, thereupon the Lord with a gracious smile addressed him, who was so much depressed in the midst between the two armies. And the footnote reads, Krishna's smile has been interpreted in several different ways. Some commentators think that Krishna is mocking Arjuna with his smile, but if we realize that Krishna is a spiritual teacher, has only Arjuna's welfare at heart, we may envision the smile as an expression of grace affection or patient encouragement. Maharishi points out that although Arjuna is in despair, the Lord smiles in his youthful, playful mood to show Arjuna that his difficulties are not so serious as he thinks. Yogananda interprets the entire Gita as symbolic of internal experiences of the practitioner of yoga who is battling inner obstacles of liberation. He thus offers the image of Arjuna basking in the illuminating smile of spirit as he begins to receive Krishna's sublime discourse. Okay, so one task of growing up is to be able to discriminate between the warring armies that are going on in one's own head. When we're born, we're wild animals and we actually have chaos in our head. And these armies of opposites are constantly fighting one another. And so one of the first tasks of youth is to be able to discriminate these opposites so that you can put them into opposing armies and see one side as this group and one side as that group. So here in the Bhagavad Gita, it's referred to as the Pandavas and the Kauravas. But those are the two armies. But in terms of psychology, it would be the ability to discriminate. And if we look at Women's Development from Women Who Run with the Wolves by Clarissa Pinkola Estes, let's see. That's ghostly. Anyway, if we look at women's development, the sixth task for women's individuation, which is carried after the story Vasilisa the Wise, is the separating of this from that. So in Dr. Estes's story, the separating is done of certain kinds of seeds. But in the Bhagavad Gita, it's armies, because men tend to be more inclined toward the warrior archetype. So for men, it would be a battle like the Bhagavad Gita in the physical world. But for women, that battle is in the unconscious. And so anyway, one has to be able to discriminate this from that. So anything else you want to say, Khushboo, before we wrap this one up? Can't hear you. Khushboo, we couldn't hear you at all, your comment. And there.
Oh, okay. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Say it again now, please.
I'll read a little passage, and then as we have built the ritual, that we'll end with those 4 lines. Okay?
Okay. Yep. Yeah. Go ahead.
Rather than seeking a singular authentic message, you and I must appreciate the plurality of ideas that have emerged over the centuries and seek out what binds them and what separates them. In the various translations, commentaries, and retellings, we do find a common tendency to appreciate the relationship between self, that's Arjuna, and the other. Those who stand our side, the Pandavas, those who stand on the other side, the Kauravas, the one who stands on everybody's side, Krishna, and of course, the property, Kurukshetra, our relationship with the other, be it a thing or an organism, and the other's relationship with us is what determines our humanity. And this is a timeless truth. And this is a timeless truth. Sanatan Satya, a discovery of our ancestors, which we will explore in the Gita.
Okay.
Yeah.
Terrific.
So here is those lines. Within infinite myths lies an eternal truth. Who see it all? Varuna has but 1,000 eyes. Indra, 100. You and I, only 2. That's the day for today.
Thank you very much. That was lovely. And I will see you tomorrow so 10 o'clock tomorrow, we're going to do it. Right? Okay. So 7:30 p.m. India time. So Thank you, Khushboo. And we will continue tomorrow with Discourse 2, verse 11 tomorrow. What are the verses for tomorrow? 11 through?
Just 1 second. We didn't do that today. So tomorrow is 11 to 30. 30.
Okay. 11 through 30 tomorrow. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll see you tomorrow. We did it.
On time.
Yep. Now I can continue to be a husband. Peace.
Good.
Take care.
God bless you. Bye-bye.
God bless you. Bye-bye.
Bye.